Just checking to see if everybody can hear me.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, great. We'll give it a few more minutes.
Thank you.
So it looks like I've got Taylor and Michaela, David and Ivan. Is that pretty much everybody accounted for?
Yes, as far as me.
Okay.
Thank you. Are you taking this bite? I can carry it, please. Oh.
Ivan and David, if you want to, since you're joining via Zoom, if you want to just type your emails in the chat, I will send you the handouts that Michaela has for the folks that are there in person. Hey, folks, if you want to put your email, the folks that are not in the conference room, if you want to put your email in the chat, let's see, I got one already. I'll send you the handouts. So I've got Ivan, David's out there, and then I think we have everything else is leadership team. I'm just gonna give everybody another minute and then we'll just start with introductions. Okay, well, welcome everyone to the buyer process workshop. Looks like we got one other person adding on. Also, I'll give them about 30 more seconds. Just for those of you who have joined us in the last couple of seconds, if you would put your email address in the chat, I'll go ahead and send you the handouts for the class. So I need it from David, Jamal, no, not Jamal. That's, I guess, Ivan, and Maricela. And I think Trey, but he seemed to jump out again. And I would like to see your smiling faces if you can make your video happen. Thanks, Maricela. Oh, hey, David. Do you want to put your email in the chat so that I can send you the handouts? Hey, Jamal.
You mean in the chat?
Yeah, in the chat. Mhm.
Okay.
Do we have some folks at KW Raleigh in the training room?
I'm here.
And who's I'm here?
My name is Katrina Slade.
Katrina Slate. Okay. Did you get
Katrina with a C. Mhm.
did you get handouts from from Michaela?
Yes, I have them.
Perfect.
I wasn't sure if you could hear me, so thank you.
Yeah, no, I can hear you just fine. It's great.
Okay, perfect.
So don't hesitate to speak up if you have a question or anything like that.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, I'm just waiting. I know David's trying to put his email address in the chat. While David's finishing that up, I'll just go ahead and do some introductions, start the introductions. So welcome to the buyer process workshop. I'm Wendy Lyman, and I have worn various hats at the Market Center and in the real estate world over the past, I guess I started in 2004 14. At the Market Center, I was a recruiter at that point in time, working a lot with new agents. And I got the bug. Thank you, Dave. Got the bug for real estate, got my license in late 2015, early 2016. And then started as a new agent, but went through the boot camp and Ignite. And about that time, I got tapped from an agent who was a close friend of mine in the Market Center. And she needed a contract to close person because her current operations manager had to move out to the Outer Banks fairly quickly. So I said, well, you know, this would be a great way to get experience. And so I worked for her for about a year and a half and learned. It was a wonderful experience for a new agent because I got down the contract to close, or actually the contact through closing process from an operations perspective. And as a new agent, that's something that it's, you know, when you're learning anything, especially if it's a lot of complex things, you know, processes and systems, it can take repeatability for you to feel comfortable with that. And that's the area where I feel a lot of agents are a bit, they get a bit frightened and daunted about everything. You know, they have no problem talking to new people, but having to deal with all of these contracts and how do we get paid and all that sort of thing. So it was a great experience because instead of doing, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sales maybe in a year, I did over 40. And so I learned that part of the process. And now it's sort of like the back of my hand. I also learned from a great lady who I was very fortunate that she was had been in the medical practice administration area. So she was a wonderful systems person. And at Keller Williams, you're going to hear, of course, a lot about systems. And so she just got me started off on the right track so that things were organized. And when I started my own business, it was much simpler for me to manage. So that's kind of why I come at this position. I also really like systems and I love command and what it's done for us. So anyway, currently, I was actually last year, I worked for about a year as director of agent services and productivity coach at Keller Williams, Raleigh. And then back in December, Scott and I had a chat because my daughter was getting married and I had a lot of, you know, things that I needed to be doing at home, although I loved working with the agents and helping the leadership team. And so I transitioned back to my personal real estate business in January, and it's been fantastic. I've gotten to put to use all this new technology and systems. And I just capped this month and I'm running 100% until March 1st of 2022. So I'm hoping that I can help you all get to that point. So let's just go down the roster and let's go ahead and since Katrina's sitting there all by herself, maybe she can just give us a little bit of information, like how you got into real estate, why you're interested in it, and maybe what you did before you got here. And what is your one thing that you'd like to get out of this class?
Okay, well, hello again, everyone. My name is Katrina Slade. I am actually new to Keller Williams. I joined last month, I believe. I just moved to the North Carolina area in June, a couple of months ago, so I'm new to this area. And I got into real estate because years ago I had an agent that was not a good agent and she was not looking out for me as the buyer. She was more concerned with the commission over her fiduciary duty as working with me as her buyer, or client. And from a heart perspective, I said I would never let anyone do what she did to me. If I became an agent, I wouldn't do that to someone else. So that's what really pushed me to become an agent, to help people, because that's what I love to do, is to help and assist people. What I would like to get out of this class, well, let me back up. So I got my license late 2019. And I started with Weichert in Virginia, and then I, again, transferred to Keller once I came here. I've heard great things about training and so forth. And so I like to get as much training as possible because I am still fairly new. I'm a dual career agent, so I do still have a full-time job. I'm trying to learn the real estate piece as much as I can when I have the free time. So
Mhm.
I'm just here to learn as much as I possibly can. So thank you again.
Awesome. Well, one of the things I'm going to be doing as we go through this class is I'm going to be pointing out some, because one of the things this class is not, it's not a class about the scripts and the sales techniques and all that sort of thing of the buyer process. That actually is going to come in Ignite, and you have some great opportunities over the next month to participate in Ignite with some very experienced agents from Carolina Education Services, CES, and all of those classes are on the Facebook events part. So we're going to point some of those out because this is a great parallel. We're going to talk about some of those things, but I'm going to be more of the nuts and bolts, and then you'll have a great foundation for when the Ignite comes along and you want to be trained more in, you know, how do I handle a buyer consultation when I'm interacting with a buyer, and you'll get practice with that and hints and those kinds of things, amongst all other things. How do you deal with listings? How do you do lead generation, business planning, all of that. So this is kind of a complement of that for the closing process, or the whole process of a buyer, working with the buyer. Great. Well, I'm glad to have you here and glad to have you in North Carolina at Keller Williams Raleigh. So David, what do you prefer to be called?
I go by Dave usually.
Dave. Okay.
And I've been in the real estate business pretty much all my life, but mostly as a home builder. I was a home builder for about 40 years. And after I got out of that, I came into general real estate in 2010. And was in it for about 4 years, but about half of that was as a new home builder.
Okay.
So, I was more familiar with that side of it. And then I went into remodeling for 3-4 years. And now I've decided I'm going to go back into general real estate.
Awesome.
Lots of reasons, but the thing I want to get is things have changed, especially the tools to use. And as I've been in Keller Williams now for about a month and a half, I think, and most of that time has been spent trying to figure out the software and how it works into how you take best advantage of it and that kind of thing. So that's what I'm most interested in.
Cool. Well, as I go through, again, this is probably not, it's not a course in command, but what I'll do is as I go through is I'll point out some of the places where you can find that training and the classes again that are coming up where you can immerse yourself in that, because this is, you know, the time to be focusing on that for a newer agent or somebody who's returning into the current market. And it can be overwhelming. So that's one of the reasons why
Sure.
in this document that I put together, the one that's the real estate process contact to close, it's 21 pages long. We're not going to go through all 21 pages. We're going to focus on the first 2 and then the last probably 7 for the buyer process, because this is everything you would want to know step by step for listings, buyers, and referrals.
Are you going to share all 21 pages?
I just emailed you the 21 pages.
Oh.
It's in the Word document. It's called KW Raleigh. It's in that email. It's attached to those emails.
Great.
So, yep. So that'll all be coming to you if you haven't gotten it already. Take a look in your email. So, all right, Jamal.
Hello. Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm actually a fairly new agent. I just got my license in May.
Congratulations.
I just joined Keller Williams at the beginning of this month.
Mhm.
Formerly, I worked in law enforcement in forensics, and I was looking for a career change, and I wanted an opportunity to kind of do for myself, make my own money, and really kind of just set myself and my family up for a bigger legacy than what I was currently doing. So this is a career change for me. I'm just looking from this course to learn as much as I can, especially now that I'm a full-time agent. I'm really trying to absorb as much information as I can and trying to get the ball rolling so that I can get out there and do my thing.
Awesome. Well, anything I can do to help you out, and this goes for everyone, even though I'm not in the office, and I do appreciate everybody doing this via Zoom today. We have my 22-year-old son. I don't know if they didn't share it with you, but I can share it with you. He'd been vaccinated and he ended up coming down with COVID. He's fine. He has no symptoms except for a little sore throat. But so I just figured it would be better to stay in place for a little while and keep everybody safe, because I was there last year every day when we were kind of battling through things. So anyway, but at any time I'll put my contact information in the chat a little bit later, and please remind me to do so. And if not, you can always get my information. Of course, I've emailed you my for most of you, you have my email already, and it should have my contact information in there, but please remind me to put it in the chat at the end. I'm a little scattered. I just turned 60. So, you know, what I used to remember doesn't always stick with me. So especially stuff that's happened recently. All right, Maricela.
Hi, Wendy. Yeah, I'm a fairly new agent as well. I just got licensed in April. I just joined with Keller Williams in May. I chose real estate just because I'm coming from a marketing and sales background. And then just also being a native in North Carolina, seeing all the growth that's been going on, especially just in like the last 10 years. So that definitely pushed me to get my real estate license. And I had family members out of state that were just telling me like, if it was going to be a good time, now is definitely. It's just something I've always just kind of been interested in. But I've definitely just been taking as much. I'm sorry, a little messed up.
Okay.
Okay, but yeah, I've been taking as many classes as I can right now, trying to absorb as much information and just learn from everyone. I'm gonna have my camera off just because my allergies are messing up with me right now.
I get that completely. I get that completely. It's I'm one of those people too. So well, great to have you here, and you can't be at a better place to help you get started in real estate. In fact, like I said, a lot of the information is going to be overwhelming to you. And so hopefully I'll be able to guide you through it. And one of the things I've tried to do, this document, you can just get it out. It's again, the real estate process contact to close. And it's been a labor of love from a lot of people over the years that I've worked with here at Keller Williams. Kathy St. George is the agent that I used to work with. She and her husband, Andy, helped me, gave me some of the initial stuff to put this all together. One of our former tech directors put it, improve this. And then of course, Sharon and Art Poling and others have looked this over as well. And we just keep improving it. But I think it'll just give you in one place something to go to at least give you a bare bones of the process. And then you can take it as you'll find as you go through Ignite and some of the millionaire real estate business planning clinics and things like that over time, that you can create your own operations manual. Because what this focuses on is systems. Has anybody out there read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent yet?
Not completely. I've been doing some reading.
Okay, so Gary Keller talks about there's 3 things to help you propel and as the foundation of your business. Does anybody know what those 3 foundational, they start with the letter L? Can you take a guess? Hey, Josh.
Hey, I'm sorry I'm late. How are y'all doing?
No problem, no problem. If you would put your email address in the chat, I'll send you the documents for that we're referring to. So we're talking about millionaire real estate. And so can anybody take a guess what the 3 L's are that make up the foundation of launching your business?
Could one of them be leads?
One of them could be leads. Yep.
Could one of them be listings?
The next one can be listings. Yep.
What's the third one? Is it leverage?
It is leverage.
It is leverage.
Very good.
Yeah, it's like-
So what this class is about actually is it's a systems class, and systems are leverage. And so as new agents or agents that are starting, revisiting their real estate business, one of the things I want you to focus on while you're working on building your database and generating those leads, which will lead you to listings and buyers and all of that, I want you to take this document and start working through developing your systems so that you have it in place. You have folders that are already set up to go for buyer and listing appointments. You have canned emails that'll help you to, save time when you're sending out confirmations to clients for appointments, all those kinds of things and many more. So that's what we're going to get started with today. Again, I said this is 21 pages, but don't faint because we're only going to work on the first 2 pages, which are just general guidelines, and then the last 13. So the other thing is I like to talk about what this class is and what it's not. So again, what it is it's a systems class. It's a processes class, and it's going to take you through the bare bones of working with buyers. What it's not is a class in KW Command. But the good news is you have some great resources for KW Command. First of all, I'm sure you're all familiar with Robert Joins, and I'm going to share, let me go back to Zoom. I'm going to share where's my share screen? There we go. Okay, there we go. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go to the KW Raleigh landing page in YouTube. So you just go to youtube.com, put in KW Raleigh, and this page will show up. And Robert has organized these so nicely, but the ones you want to focus on, he goes through his tech tips there, and then classes as well. He has what's called playlists. So if you click on those playlists, let me turn Robert off here, he'll start again. And you go over to the right, you can see all of the classes that he's put out here that have been recorded. And it's not just his, like Sharon and George, their boot camp and contracts, their orientation and contracts boot camp. They did a script and role play with David Clark, who he's a listing manager. So different know your loan types with our movement mortgage rep. And so some of the CMA class that we've done in the past, advanced DocuSign with Robert. So that's one place where you can get that training. The other place where you can get a lot of training is in KW Connect. And if can y'all see KW Connect up here? Got it?
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes when I change from tab to tab, it doesn't follow along.
Yeah.
So just let me know. So, so this is where you can go in and find, lots of video on lots of things. So, so if you need some help on KW Command, let's say smart plans, or you just would put in the search smart plans. And here you go. There's a class on customizing and building smart plans. Walk through smart plans. So you can just find a lot of great information, but if you want to go to that particular class, instead of just watching a video, you click on that and you can actually download the materials on it. If there's any video associated, it's here. So also another thing you can find here are some of the Ignite tools that I'm going to refer to later on in this. Well, they'll use them, I'm sure, in the Ignite classes, but also I'm going to refer to some the Ignite toolkit, which has a lot of great lists and like buyer consultation, buyer lead sheets, those kinds of things that you can use in meeting with buyers and doing your qualification of buyers. So KW Connect is a wealth of information. There's a lot of other stuff out here. Just go log in and it's the same login ID as for Command, and you can find a lot of great information. Also the technology tab, if you go to Command Your Business, they have videos like on every particular area, like database with contacts and smart plans. You can click here and it has videos on building your database, adding neighborhoods. So that's a really good drop-down menu to refer to. That's technology and training and resources, or Command Your not Command Your Market Center, Command Your Business. Okay, I know I'm speeding through this, but I think, you know, that as you work more and more with our systems, you're going to know that they're pretty intuitive to work with. Yes, Josh.
I was just going to say quickly, one thing that's been helping me is I just made a bookmark, tab and for my real estate. And because I'm still new, I just like put everything, all my resources in that one tab. So whenever I'm feeling like, oh, wait, what was that one? Okay, I can just look back. Okay, so now I know where my Connect is right away. So,
Yep.
Just makes it easy. Just a little suggestion.
Yep. And you can see up here on top of my browser that I've got some important things, like I have articles. So you can actually put in your browser the ones you use most often. I was doing a research on new home communities because that's become really important to buyers right now, to at least be able to maybe get a house. Listing resources are just things that I use every day for when I need to pull information about listings and buyers, actually, to some extent, because a lot of it's the due diligence research that I'm going to talk about. Okay, so KW Command is another thing you can look at, but finally, we want to go to our Facebook group, because there's a lot of stuff that's out there on that Facebook group. Oh my goodness, we got everybody's. There we go. Okay, so if you go to the Facebook group and you click on events, Michaela and Taylor have, I think it's mainly Michaela, have put all of the training sessions that are coming up so that you can, know which ones that you want to go to. And if you click on it, it will have information to sign up for that. A lot of the Ignite sessions and CES sessions with Ignite, they're all online. And you are going to have access to some of the best in Keller Williams to teach you these sessions. So as I said before, this class is about systems, like here's ours right here today. But in the next couple weeks, you can see these Ignite classes. Keep scrolling down. Buyer consultations are going to be covered on Wednesday, August 18th from 9 to 11 by CES. So if you click on this, then you'll get the link to register for that, and they'll remind you and everything. Buyer CMA process, that's going to be here in the Market Center next week at this time. So this one, customer experience with Bill Kennedy. Again, you got the time to take these things. It's an amazing class, and Bill is awesome at customer experience. So again, you've got some more classes. Here, CES Session 7, Ignite, Find and Win the Buyer. So this is, again, about relationships, lead generation with respect to buyers. I'll talk about the process of taking that lead and making sure that it doesn't get lost. But this will talk about, what are the scripts that you use, and you'll get time to practice it. And then, of course, there's more Ignite classes. Ask Me Anything about KW Command with Katie Womble, another great person to get your list of questions together. If you can't jump in on Robert's classes for Command Basics, I think he calls it Command Crash Course, which usually is about every other Friday. You can always get in with Katie, and she is amazing. And then finally, I think that there's a total of 12 Ignite sessions that you can be looking for. They just haven't put, here's another one. CES All Hands on Tech. So if you're somebody who really wants to understand more about not just the tech itself, but how to use it in your business, this would be something that you want to look at. Okay. And then Robert, of course, he has Tech Power Hour about, every Monday. And then again, they're going to, you may have already started in Ignite this past Monday. So he's got advanced DocuSign. These are the ones in the past. So anyway, that's another place where you can find great training information under events. And again, if you're not in that group already, definitely get added on. But the other thing you can do is you can search or actually look under files. And here's a lot of information that is on files that we've uploaded here for many, many moons. And I believe that Michaela is going to upload all of these forms that I'm referring to as well on here. So it's a great resource for finding things. Like here's a PDF on commissions in command and how to use them. Let's see, here's our W-9 if you're doing referrals to other market centers and they're going to pay you. Okay, so you've received a referral. You need to provide them with a W-9 so that they can pay us. Here's the appraisal contingency addendum that Robert Joins added on. I believe also Sharon has one, but that's dealing right now with the market where we have offers going over possibly the appraised amount. And so we as seller or as listing agents want to make sure that the buyer that's made the offer that's $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 above what it appraises for doesn't come back when the home doesn't appraise and then say, well, you got to negotiate with me. Okay, so that addendum actually locks that buyer in to pay the contract sales price, even if the appraisal comes back. Okay, so see if there's anything else here on what it is not. Okay, no. So let's get to this document. So first of all, we've got some general guidelines. And again, this is really how you want to set up your file system. And we do upload a lot of our documents and things that are important in the research we do about properties to KW Command. In what section of Command? Anybody know that section in Command that somebody's given me the answer.
Opportunity document folder.
In the what?
Opportunity document folder.
Correct. The opportunity, you go into opportunities and in the document folder. But we don't always, the one thing is we don't always, actually I'm trying to do two things at once here. I wanted to get Josh
Sorry.
It's okay. Nope.
I appreciate it.
Just go ahead and forward that over, make sure it's with you. Great. Be in there, yes. Okay, there we go.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem. So So command requires certain types of documents to provide the minimum information that we need to keep in the office. But you may also have other things that you want to keep about your clients, and you can put those in a paper system that you have, or you can arrange it in a Google Drive or a hard drive. So does anybody have a question? Okay. So the way that we arrange those things is that we create, and I'll just show you on mine, on my documents. So I have a buyer's file folder. And in there, I arrange, because this aligns with how command does things, we're going to name that file by the buyer's name initially. So I have in my documents, I have buyers, and then I have a folder for each one of my documents, for each one of my buyers. And in there, I actually have a way of organizing that using a buyer folder structure. And that also coincides with the buyer folder structure that I sent you. It's called Appendix 1 Buyer Folder Structure. And it shows the types of documents that go into each of these subfolders. So it's just so
we only see your Google page.
you just lost it. Okay. Let me do another share. And see it now?
Yeah, yeah, you're in your buyer folder structure, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep, I am.
Cool.
Thank you for keeping me honest and Zoom honest. So this is just a way, and it's just the way I've learned, but it makes it easy to find information when you need it. Also, this is the way I organize my paper file, because I like to have a binder for each client to make it easier to find paper, because I'm a paper kind of gal, but this is a lot easier to store later. So for example, I'll show you, I've got, this one should be all blown out. Oh, of course, it's not in that nice little order. So let's say file number 4, section number 4 is listing information. So this is all the documents that we'll later see that I need to provide as far as me doing my due diligence before an offer is made and throughout the transaction. And what it does is it provides documentation. If I'm ever audited as an agent, or if we ever have a problem that you'd say I didn't give them the septic permit, or something comes up with their septic permit, we can see here that I got the septic information. So that just leads to the credibility that I did my due diligence for my buyer. Okay, I researched the deed, and I'll get into why we do all this later. But this just gives you an organized way of finding that information if you need it quickly. Let's say I'm getting ready for closing, or actually, let's say I'm sending out at the end of the year. I like to send out the closing disclosure to my clients so that they can see what expenses they paid on their closing for tax purposes. It's another way to touch your clients and, have them think about you in a kind way so that they don't have to go looking for it. Because when they were moving, they threw that set of documents that they got from the attorney into some box, and now they can't find it. So I send them a paper copy or email it to them actually now. And so here's the final CD for this client. Oh, that's the loan application, but they sent everything with it. But if I drill down, it will have the closing disclosure. This particular attorney sent me everything. So I'd have to go through that. So this is just a history of the closing for this particular buyer. And then this buyer folder structure will, help you through not only, it's right here, not only organizing it, but also knowing what is required documentation. If you look at that buyer folder structure, there are 3 checklists or check boxes beside each document. So let's look at that MLS active. MLS sheet in section 4. The 3 boxes correspond to the key up at the top right of the page. So the first box is, did I put it in KW Command? Second one, did I put it in my own drive, either Google or my personal hard drive? And then 3, did I put it in my folder or my binder? And that's just ensuring that I've done all of that. Okay, and it's there. So at one glance, I can see how I've documented that transaction for that particular thing. So let's say that when I'm getting to closing and let's say I don't have the commission scan yet, the check scan, which I do need to close out that sale and to get paid by Jeremy. So, you know, I can look and see where I put it, or if I didn't put it anywhere, I need to go get a copy of it from, you know, typically you just make that copy when you get back. But anyway, so this just shows you if there's a little X already in that first column, that means that it's not necessary to put that in KW Command. So you can see that, you know, compliance doesn't require as much as you're going to want to keep. Because, you know, those things that already have the X in that box means that we don't need to keep that and upload it into Command. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, good.
I have a question, Wendy.
Sure.
So we're looking at the appendix 1, is that what we're?
We were, yes, the
Okay.
buyer. Yep.
So, okay, so everything that was Xed off should not be in Command. I was
Correct.
thinking, okay.
Yep. Yep. I mean, if I was really clever, I just wouldn't put a box there, but I'm working from something I inherited. So I'm
Okay.
just I'm being lazy. But
Okay,
yes, you should not, those are not required in Command. So if there's a box there that's unchecked, you need to check it. And so it needs to be put in there. All right. So the next thing is, so again, general guidelines. As an agent, one of the things that we want to be able to do is keep in touch with our vendors. So that's something that I just make a process to call them once a week or once every other week on Mondays to make sure that I have an update of that process of where we're at in for each player in that transaction. As a buyer, this is very important with respect to your lender. You need to be in each other's back pockets as far as that process is going. Because if something is going sideways on the loan, you need to know it. So make friends with your lender and make sure, you know, it doesn't have to be a phone call. You can text them. What I do is I just email everybody. And then you also set expectations with your client right up in the buyer consultation of how often you're going to be communicating with them and how you're going to be communicating with them. Are we going to send a text? So this is the third bullet down. So for buyers, back in the old days when we actually used to schedule showings in a bulk, you know, number of showings for a weekend, you know, I used to call them Thursday or Friday and we'd go through the search list and say, you know, what do you want to see this weekend? And I'd set up the showings. And now it's like it comes up and the property is on the search, comes into your email, and we're running as fast as we can. So that's a little bit different, but you still want to touch base with them. You know, have things changed? Are you getting discouraged? You know, do you need a pep talk? You know, do we want to reduce your expectations a bit, you know, to get you in a property? So those are all, you know, and then once we're under contract, we're just going to continue reviewing the milestones, things that you need to make sure that they've done, like fill out their buyer information sheet and get it to the attorney, or anything going on with repairs, due diligence. I'm going to skip sellers because sellers are on another class. You also, as much as possible, want to create what I call canned emails. Does anybody, can you figure out or know what that is? Dave's shaking his head. What are they, Dave? There he is.
They're emails that you've made up ahead of time to cover standard things that happen in the process. And all you have to do is add the little personal touch to here and there if you want, and send them out.
Yep, absolutely. That's exactly what they are. And again, with documenting all this and doing it, this is something as you grow your business, it makes it so much easier to hand it off to an executive assistant or transaction coordinator, or if you use Transactly, transferring to them how you want things handled with your clients. So again, the work that you do now and using this information and customizing it to your own, way you do things is going to help you in the long run to run a business that's going to leverage your time. And basically, I mean, if you've ever done that little exercise about, how much an assistant buys you or how much a system buys you in dollars per hour, it's amazing. So it's just something to keep in mind. So one of these examples is congratulations, you're under contract. That's great news to deliver. Of course, they already know they're under contract, but you're just going to say it again to get them excited because they're all worn out after they fought the battle to get this perfect home. And so this is going to include information like you're going to attach the copies of all their executed contracts and documents, talk about next steps like inspections, loan approval, whatever else they need to do or you need to do. And then, of course, reiterate those important dates of due diligence and closing. And then there's others here that you can see, and I've bulleted some of the particular topics. Does anybody know where to create those in Gmail? Those kinds of canned, or they call them templates in Gmail. Okay. Didn't get any hands raised or any nods. So what you would do, can everybody see my Google?
Yes.
Okay. So if you go to your Gmail and you open up a new email by hitting the little pen, and if you go down to the bottom right-hand corner, these three little vertical dots, you see this pop-up menu and you have templates, okay? These are all of the templates that I've created that I just reuse. So I have them, congratulations, you're under contract for my buyers, for my sellers. I have an email that I send to my Facebook campaign leads when I get them in command. I have a review, please. This is at the end of the transaction, and it's the instructions to do a Facebook review and a request from my clients to do it. I have next steps, prep for closing, next steps for radon. After the radon tests, they get their radon results. This is my home buyer consultation appointment confirmation. So if I click on that, it just brings all that text up there and I don't have to type it again. So it's more accurate. It saves me time. Just change the name of the person. And then I probably would put up here the actual date and time, and then just edit it and attach the documents that I've highlighted so that I'm reminded which ones I need to attach, and I let it go. And that gives me a confirmation out to my clients. And usually it happens the same business day as I've made that appointment. And the simple way to create them is, let's assume that this was a new email. I typed it in and I wanted to save it. Well, all I do is I go back in here, hit templates. Let me get you guys out of the way. Oh, sorry. Go back over here. There we go. So I would click on here, go back to templates, and then go all the way down to the bottom, and it says save draft as template. And I can save it over one that's already existing, or I can select a new one. So that's how you can create these emails, and they're so easy to use. And I finish out page 2 with actually topics of other types that you might want to create for yourself. But anytime you know in your process, you're sending lots of emails that are the same topic, just go ahead and create one and it makes it so much easier. The one thing to note on that is do not put your signature picture at the end of that template, because when you access it the next time, it will double those. So what you just do is you just put the text in so that when you create the email and put the template in, you'll already have the signature in there when you create the email. All right. Let's go back up to the guidelines. So now we're going to make a big jump to page 13, and we'll start the buyer process. Before we start, does anybody need a few-minute break?
I'm gonna go grab a glass of water, but you can start. I'll be back in like 1 minute.
Okay, let's just do a 1 minute so people can either, get a glass of water or do
Okay.
something like that.
Okay.
So come back at like, it's 1:54 now. Come back at 1:56.
All right.
All right, thanks, guys. Josh, how long have you been at KW?
I've been at KW for a couple of months now. I'm kind of getting my bearings, getting everything kind of getting to a point now where I have my systems kind of set up, and I'm in the prospecting phase, and starting to finally starting to work with some clients and stuff like that. So I'm getting going. I'm getting there.
Good. That's great. That's great. Because I think I'd seen you in some classes before.
Yeah, I'm trying to be
I think
more
I
and
taught
more
the
active.
CMA class.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be more and more active every week. If I can just do a little more than the last week within reason, I think that'll be good for growth. That's all it is. It just takes the persistence and the organization and the drive, right? But
Yep.
I haven't done my first close yet or anything. So I think once I get that under my belt, that'll give me the confidence to say, I can do this, and I want to do this again and again. So
Are you full-time agent?
yeah, I'm full time. I'm switching over from commercial. I was in a commercial real estate, agent for about 3 years. I worked from Raleigh all the way out to Wake Forest. I even was doing the leasing for a shopping center out in Fayetteville for about a year. So that was challenging in and of itself. Completely different game though, really is a completely different game. But I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. I'm much more of a people person. And I feel like with residential, you get to express that a little bit. You really get to connect with people. Whereas in commercial, you do that, but it's a lot of dollars and cents. It really
Yeah.
is. It's a little different.
Yeah, it's a little, the networking's a little bit different.
Yeah.
You know, whereas you're more involved in the chamber and
Totally.
things like that.
All the time. And nothing, it's nice to put on a nice suit once in a while, but every day.
Oh, I know.
But no, it's a good experience. And I still have a lot of connections in the commercial world. I have nothing but respect for those guys and gals, but I'm really looking forward to, indulging in residential. We have a great market, great environment, and just good people, especially with KW, great people, helpful,
I know.
positive. What more could you ask?
I know. It's awesome. It's awesome. Well,
You
cool.
know?
Well, welcome. And like I said,
Thank you.
I know I've seen you before in different classes. So
Yeah.
thanks for sticking with it.
Thank you for doing what you're doing today. I appreciate your time this afternoon. I have a
It's-
showing in about an hour and a half, so I might have to leave a little early, but I think we're going to be wrapping up at what time here today?
We're trying to wrap up at three, so we should be okay.
I think okay.
And I can always answer questions on stuff we don't get through. One of the great things about this class with having everything detailed out is we get to spend time on the more important, the most important parts. So
Totally.
all right, well, let's start off. I think everybody should be back. Not seeing some friendly faces, but I'm just going to press on. So page 13, we're going to talk about the buyer process from contact all the way to closing. So first of all, you're going to be prepping for your consultation with your buyer. And so you're going to make an appointment with the buyer. And during that time, you're going to complete the buyer information lead sheet. And this is in the Ignite toolkit that you can find on KW Connect, but I've also given you a copy of that. So if you look at this one here that says buyer lead sheet, it's probably backwards. And so it's just basically while you're talking to the client, it's going to allow you to collect the information that you need. I'll just go ahead and bring it up on the screen. There we go. And there we go. There we go. So this is mainly what you're going to talk to them about initially. And then, of course, the most important question that you want to be asking is, has another agent taken you out and shown you properties? How's it going? And of course, you're going to probably, ask a little bit further on that one. And what would be the question that you would want the answer to at that point?
Did you sign anything?
Did you sign anything? Yes, absolutely. Have you signed a buyer agency agreement? Because they may have, signed something different, like a working with real estate acknowledgement, but a disclosure, but you definitely want to probe a little bit there to make sure. Also, is there anybody else buying the home with you? That's really important because you want to make sure that, to get to know that other person and so on and so forth. So you're going to use that during the answers to this to prepare you for getting into setting that appointment. Okay, so this just gives you some information. A lot of it, it's going to qualify whether we really want to sit down in this point. Have you been pre-qualified by a lender? Another number two important question to ask, because why? Why is it important that they be pre-qualified from a lender?
So that the agent will know how much home that they qualify for. So you can kind of do your search based off of that.
Exactly. Exactly. And also, you know, as you're having this conversation, we need to keep an ear out for when we might be getting into a range where we really need to discuss working with real estate agent, because some people you need to put that warning sign up with, because some people just want to tell you their whole life story in the first 10 minutes. So we just want to make sure that we use it. And one of the things I always do is that I make it a joke. I say, well, we've gotten to the point where I really need to read you your North Carolina real estate Miranda rights. And so you're going to, you know, and you're going to talk to them very quickly, you know, really 15 to 30 seconds about what that means. And that's something they'll talk about as well in your consultation classes, about how do you make that something that's positive and quick to go through. Because they're not committing to anything at that point. But, and I know Art Poling, who's our broker in charge, said he always sees it as a positive, because a lot of folks don't share that working with real estates with agents, with their clients. And, you know, when they're made aware of that and that you do share it, they understand that, you know, that really bumps the integrity up of, and, you know, how they feel about working with you, and that you have disclosed that. So so once you've completed that lead sheet, you've hung up the phone, you set up the appointment. So then you're going to do the buyer contact in KW Command if it's not already been done, because with Facebook leads and things like that, a lot of that contact information is already there. So you just need to edit it and add to it. You're going to create a buyer opportunity in KW Command, and you name it using the buyer name at this point. And then you're also going to create your transaction folder in Google Drive that we talked about before, or on your personal hard drive. And you're going to use the file structure in that general guidelines section earlier and the appendix 1. You're going to add that appointment to Google Calendar. And then you're going to send that canned appointment confirmation email, attach the buyer home questionnaire, which is the next one of the other handouts that I gave to you. And this is just something for them to think over, look over prior to the consultation. Because sometimes, especially when you have 2 people buying or family buying, they all may want to talk this over before they get in the same room with you, because people have different ideas about those things and they may not agree with them at that point, but at least they've talked it through. So you're going to attach this, or they've got several other examples of these in the KW Connect. But anyway, this is something, and again, you can get this in, let me stop the share here. You can get this buyer consultation questionnaire and any of this online, so you can edit it in KW Connect under the Ignite toolkit. All right. Let me go back to this. All right. So you're going to send that out. And then one day before the appointment, you're going to confirm it with the buyer with a text or a phone call. So here's another area, this area here, prepare buyer consultation docs and folder. And this is what I call, you know, your stock folder that you're going to use so that you've got it 4 or 5 of them together for both listings and buyers, so that all you need to add is the custom information about that client to it, and you're ready to go to a buyer consultation and present to that client. So what that consultation folder includes is there's going to be a Manila, I use a Manila agent folder. Let me just stop sharing for a second and I'll show you an example of what I mean. So you get one of these really pretty KW folders from Michaela or Taylor, and we're going to organize it And the manila folder is the one that I keep all of my agent information in and documents. So all the signed, working with real estate agents, exclusive right to sell, anything else that I've, my lead sheet. And then as I work with the client, more and more information that I gather. And sometimes I make copies of that and I put it in my hard drive as well under that buyer. And so and I name it, this one's a listing one, but I just name it with the last name, first name of the person, and then buyer. So that's for you as the agent to take with you. You're going to put in here when you go on a buyer consultation, the documents that you've pre-filled using DocuSign for your buyer's agency agreement, working with real estate agents, and anything else that you need. So this is something you're going to take with you when you go. The rest of the folder itself can be pre-stocked because everything else is generic for a buyer consultation. So you're going to have in here a copy, and let's go back to the page 13. So under the pre-stuffed buyer consultation folder, you're going to have a copy of your home buying guide. So that is a document. You can customize it. Ignite has a buyer presentation that you can customize. It's part of that win and win buyers. And you also can get one on KW Command under designs. And what it looks like, let me go ahead and pull mine up. I have the old version. It's not the pretty version that Command has, but let me go ahead into my buyer documents. So I have a buyer success toolkit. And what can y'all see that?
No, we're seeing your Word document still.
Oh, okay. So I'll
Yeah,
go
it's
back.
really weird with the updating.
I know. It's okay. I'll go back. You
All
see it
good.
now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So this one's the vanilla version. The one that's on Command right now in designs, it's under print marketing and designs, has full color pictures. It already has all of this canned information in it. I just haven't had time to update mine yet. But really what it is it's just a one place introduction that you can flow through a buyer consultation, but it also, like for this one, for example, you're going to talk about what a needs analysis is, and basically it's all about the customer. Agency laws, which this gets you through the buyer agency document almost in a more friendly way. And they have more pictures and fun stuff in the newer version. Then there's a section on you, why choose you? And then why choose Keller Williams? This is a standard customer service commitment that Keller Williams has. Here's the home buying process. And again, I love the new one because it's got pictures and all that sort of thing instead of this flow chart. This is kind of a nice discussion about the current market. So you can either update it in here. I think that when I revise mine, which I'm going to be working on, I'm actually working on now, I'm going to pull this out and have a flyer that has all the market information on it. So it's easily changed because it changes about once a month. And then it talks about, how to navigate the market and all that. So just, it's a lot of boilerplate. Goes into lending, pre-qualification, why that's important, pre-approval, 10 commandments when applying for a real estate loan. I can actually take this out as well because both of my lenders that I put in as vendors in this pre-filled folder have this flyer with this information on it. Here's something that actually I gave you a copy of that I discuss with every one of my clients during a consultation. And it came out of, and Dave can probably attest to this. We get, you talk about all of these things in the initial buyer consultation, and you'd have it in the document, this, the buyer process document that you give to them. But then when they get down to closing, they're like totally ignorant of, the fees that they need to close. So I felt that it was important to include this as a separate document in that, in my folder. And I just go through it and I write it all in as I'm going through it. So what I'll tell them is, on this side here, you're going to get all this information from your lender when they give you a loan cost estimate, that you get with your pre-qualification or pre-approval. So this is all, you can fill that in so you'll know what you need for your different closing costs. And then I start filling in some of these things that are more before closing. So a survey today is going to cost you about $500. A termite or wood boring pest inspection is going to cost you about $95. Home inspection depends on the size of the home. And I have a price sheet in this folder, and it's also in that bulleted list from my home inspector. So I can just, fill in, oh, you're looking for a 2,000 square foot home, it's going to be $450. So we put that in there. Radon test, $150, $175. We also can add in like a septic inspection if I know they want to be in the country. So we just add all those things up, and then we can look at what it's pretty much going to cost to close. This is also a great place to talk about the down payment, earnest money, due diligence money. And that's outlined a little bit later, but basically, just to save a little time, the discussion, you explain what earnest money is, you explain what due diligence is, and you explain the current market and what is generally acceptable. Does anybody have a feel right now for where that money, where that price point is for due diligence and earnest money? No? Okay. So go ahead. Somebody have something to say? Okay. So where this market is right now is that, it used to be even a year ago, we were looking at about 1 to 1.5% of the purchase price for both the due diligence and earnest money together. Typically, when it was first brought in, due diligence money was just something that was given to the seller for taking the home off the market. A couple $100, just to give them something. Now the due diligence money is the most important term, I think, in the offer, other than the purchase price. And it can be tens of thousands of dollars. And that money you don't get back if you don't close. So that's a discussion, a good discussion point for your clients at that point when you're going through, because they may need to have a lot more money in their bank account before they can even approach making an offer on a home because of that due diligence money. So it's something to think about. And you really just need to start, being a student of the market, ask some of the more experienced agents in the office about how things are going right now. Daniel Varag, who works for Jordan Clark as his lead buyer's agent, he knows what's going on. You talk to Ruby Henderson and she knows what her buyer's agents are offering. So just have a conversation with somebody that's experienced at this to kind of have an idea. So that's just an example of my of the buyer process document that I send out to my clients. I think it's a little wordy right now, so I'm going to be using the one in Command because it's nice visuals and not as much text. So so the things that you're going to put in addition to that home buying guide, is on the right side, you're going to put in all of the sample documents and disclosures that you need to support the buyer's agency agreement, the things that are referenced there. So you're going to need the sample 2T, sample professional services and election, services disclosure, and a sample of the buyer agency agreement, as well as these two documents. This is question and answers about home inspections. And this one is the new working with real estate agents Q&A. It used to be the disclosure as well, but they've changed it. Now we have a one-page form that we use. These can be ordered, and the information on here of where to get all of these forms and everything is highlighted right here. So to get the sample documents, you need to go to NC Realtors site, and you have to log in with your NRDS number, and you can find that on your profile at the Raleigh Regional Association of Realtors. And then this is how you get to those documents. And then the Q&A about home inspections and the working with real estate agents Q&A, that can be ordered or downloaded right here at the ncrec.gov publications. The left side, go back. So this side here is going to be organized into the things for the buyer that they need to refer to. So for example, I'm going to put that buyer estimated closing charges document. Then I'm going to put my home inspector information in there, any attorneys that I work with, their fee sheets. I'm going to have a couple of home warranty brochures that I've gotten. You can get those in the mail room. And then if I really think I have a good chance of getting this agency agreement, I'm going to give them a list of my contractors, my HVAC person, my plumber, my electrician, general contractor. But if I think that, you know, they're still haven't settled on an agent, I probably will not include that. Most of my business is referral. And so I pretty much have 100%. If I get in the door with somebody, I pretty much have 100% chance, certainly as a buyer's agent, and about 95% of listings. So I'm a little less concerned about giving them information to take away that's valuable. And a good list of contractors is pretty valuable. So we've gotten, and these things can be, the contents for these folders, except for the manila part that's yours, can be assembled ahead of time. And I always try to have at least 5 of each of my buyer and my listing folders ready to go. And it saves you so much time because you never know when you're going to get a call and have to run out the door. So the next step's the consultation. And typically we try to do that in the office, but I do a lot of mine now with Zoom. I found that it's easier, unless, again, a lot of my folks are referrals, so from my personal sphere. So we often like to just get coffee together. So this is kind of the outline of that consultation. And again, when you go to Ignite, that session Ignite where you talk about the buyer consultation, they're really going to deep dive into this. So you're going to review always working with real estate agents. And again, make it fun, make it a positive. You're going to have a discussion because you've warned them now. Anything that they share with you, you've warned them not to do it unless they, want to share that information. So then you're free to discuss that home questionnaire, their must-haves list, and the needs analysis discussion. And you can use that buyer consultation questionnaire, which I noted before, and that's one of the handouts that I sent. And also there's another one that's called the 5 must-haves, and that's a 1-pager from the Ignite Toolkit. It all will just give you ideas about questions to ask. And so you can stay in curiosity and be more successful at getting information out of your client. Because the key is in this particular place, you're trying to develop a relationship with them of trust and establish that. So one of the ways that can be done is by, being curious about them and really exploring their needs. And again, it'll depend upon the type of person that they are. And you'll understand that, when you get with them, if they're a lot more reserved, you might want to not ask as many questions. And if they're more chatty and talkative, you of course maybe probe a little bit more. You're going to do that estimated charges worksheet because you want to make sure they really understand. And this is again going to help you screen them for being ready to buy. You're going to ask them, not at this time, but you're going to just tell them you've got the sample offer to purchase in this folder. Please review it because as we begin to do showings, we want to make sure that you understand and are familiar with that 16-page document. You want to review the buyer agency agreement and secure their signatures if possible. And so then once you've done that and you go, back to your office, you're going to scan or retrieve the executed copies of at least working with real estate agents and also the buyer agency agreement if you've secured that buyer. You're going to upload those to your own personal drive and KW Command into that opportunity. And you're going to email copies to the buyer for their records. And that's even if it's working with real estate agents. You need to keep a copy of that and you need to have it on record. So then we get into the fun part, right? The showing part. You're going to review that another handout that I sent you. It's called Prepare to Show Homes Checklist. And it really just, gets you into the process. By now, you've contacted the buyer's lender to verify their price range and obtain that pre-approval letter. And then you can use that plus what you gained at the buyer consultation to set up their search and the collaboration center site using their responses. When you finish saving that search, it gives you the opportunity to enter the contact information in Paragon, and you can send them a canned email straight from Paragon with the link and instructions on how to use Collaboration Center. If you don't know how to use that, they offer that information in the basic Paragon class, TMLS class at Triangle Multiple at TMLS. Also, we go over setting up searches a bit in the CMA class as well, but I would go because TMLS has a lot, and Paragon have a lot of really good videos that just help you understand the ins and outs of that. So then you're getting ready to show. The other thing that, they're going to teach you in Ignite is that you should be doing your 10-4. Has anybody heard that yet? Okay. So the 10-4 is the things you need to be doing daily or weekly in order to build your business. So you're going to make 10 calls, or you're going to make 10 calls from your database and discuss real estate. You're going to do 10 note cards, and you're going to meet 10 new people a day or add to your database, either with Facebook ad leads or something. And then the other 10 is you're going to visit 10 properties during the week. This is a great time to practice showing. You get to learn how to open lock boxes, work with any issues that you have for the electronic central lock, work through those. Make sure your phone has really good coverage because central lock is all based on the network and on Bluetooth. You can, walk through a house, get over the jitters of actually walking through somebody else's house. You're going to also look up that listing, and this is bullet number 4. You're going to print out all copies of the MLS sheets, the documents that are in the MLS document section, especially the property disclosure, because you want to review that with clients. And I review all that information before I go to the showing. So I'm knowledgeable about that property as best as I can be. And if I see anything that's a red flag or of a particular interest to my client that isn't quite there, I always shoot an email to the listing agent or text, you know, maybe a day before or the morning of, just to check that thing out. Right now I'm working with a lady who is taking advantage of some of the down payment assistance programs for the city of Raleigh and Community Partners Loan Program, loan pool. And they have some very specific guidelines on the property. You know, the HVAC, the roof, and the water heater have to be less than 10 years old, and they won't consider the house. So I'm looking, and every property she sends me, I'm screening for that. And if it's not on the residential property disclosure, I'm calling the listing agent to see if they can get the seller to, because it doesn't make sense for us to go if the home's doesn't have those things in place, especially in this market, because sellers aren't going to pay to upgrade those before closing. So that's just something that you do ahead of time. You're also going to check with your lender on the number of days that are needed to receive an appraisal back and close. This is especially important now when we're having to write offers pretty quickly. You don't have a day or two to get that information. So as soon as you get that pre-qualification letter, actually, or pre-approval letter, most lenders actually put that in right now, at least about the days to close, but or in their cover email. But you want to just make sure you understand that loan process so that you can write an offer quickly and set the due diligence date appropriately so that you can get the appraisal back during due diligence. So if something should happen that the appraisal, it doesn't appraise, your client doesn't lose their earnest money as well. And then you're also at the showing, if you have time, or you set aside some time to maybe go to a coffee shop afterward, talk about the homes that they've seen, and then take maybe a half an hour to review that offer to purchase sample document so that they're ready to go. Any questions on that? So you've gotten to the point where you've found the home for your clients and they want to make an offer. So do we just write up the contract and send it over to the listing agent? Dave? No, he's shaking his head. You need to do a lot of preparation and due diligence because this is a buyer beware state. And as an agent for your client, you guys are standing side by side and you need to help them through this process. So the first thing we're going to do is you're going to do comps with the buyer to develop a range of the offer price that you think will secure the deal. But also, if you think it has to go over what you think the appraised value would be, you know, all this information is going to be provided as you do that CMA so that you're coaching your client on, you know, what they're going to need to bring to the table and what they may need to, you know, have in reserve funds in case the home doesn't appraise, but they still want to go forward. So you're going to be able to do the ins and outs of that by doing a CMA. And so I'm not going to go through CMAs because we do CMAs later on. You're going to research and review all of this information below with your buyer prior to the offer. Now, it's not every bit of these documents are going to be reviewed, but at least you want to review it yourself and note any red flags. And then you're going to prove that you've done this, you're going to upload to your Google Drive all of these things and to KW Command as required. So the first one of these and the other thing to note down here is that it's not just these bits of information. This last bullet, it says you need to see that buyer folder structure, Appendix 1 under listing information for the complete list of that research and material facts you need to be looking into. Nope, sounds like somebody Was that a question or?
It's talking here in the office.
Oh, okay.
Background.
That's funny.
Let me shut the door.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Sure.
So these are some of the most important things to go through. So first of all, you need to look up the deed. And that information is going to be found in the Wake County real estate records. And so has anybody been in there before and looked up property information? Dave has, I know. Jamal hasn't. Okay, so let me stop sharing. I'm going to show you where this wonderful place that you can go to stalk people. You can find out a lot of information about people in Wake County and what their house is worth and all that fun stuff. Let's see here. Oh, that's the wrong one. In the Wake County real estate records. Here we go here. All right. So I just type in Wake County real estate data. And you click on that. And here it is. You can also go to wakegov.com and look through that way under the tax department. So let's say I want to look up an address to see if, you know, I'm showing a property to a client. I want to make sure that this information that I can find the deed. So I'm just going to pick an address. And it brings up that address. And to find the deed, so this gives me all sorts of information, and I'm not going to go into it, you know, in detail. But if I go to this deed section, it will actually give me, for the most recent transaction, the book and page where that deed can be found at the Register of Deeds. So I could go into the Register of Deeds database and look that up. But actually, they've made it easier for you. If you click on this map tab up here, and it's going to show me an aerial map of this property. And you go down here where this little piece of paper is. Can you see that? And you click on deed. You can get a PDF of the deed and download it. And we want to do that. And we want to upload it into Command. We'll upload it into Command after we've made the offer and it's been accepted. So why is it important for me to look up the deed?
To make, I don't know.
Make sure they own the property.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so where we're going to find so we're going to compare this information to, now, most times you don't have the name of the seller from the MLS unless you will download the property disclosure, which you're going to do in every case, or you're going to confirm it with the listing agent if they've not put any document up there showing who the owner is. But on the residential property disclosure, the actual owner is named and they have to sign it. And that information, 99% of the time, is in the MLS documents section that you can access that. So you want to compare that the grantee on this deed, which is the current owner, is equal to what is on that residential property disclosure. Now, this one's kind of curious because the grantee is it a person?
Company.
Yeah, it's a company.
Entity.
So yeah, it's an LLC. And so the other thing we're going to want to do is go to the North Carolina Secretary of State and look for their business registration database. You can just Google it, you'll get there. And we want to make sure that the person that has signed that residential property disclosure is the person that is named as the managing director for that particular LLC. It can't be the registered agent. It can't be the president. It has to be the managing member. It's a designation. And so when we find that, I also download a picture of that listing on the Department of Commerce, Keepers, can't remember. But anyway, I downloaded that page from that database so that I have that record that I researched it. And then I verify that with the listing agent as well. Okay. So back to, and I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but this information, you can also find a lot of it on the KW Raleigh main page that they've created. I think they probably showed you that in orientation, but there's places for each one of the placeholders for each one of these websites so that you can find it. Josh is nodding his head, so I think it's still there. So the other thing that we're back at the offer. You're going to look up the HOA information. Hopefully the listing agent has uploaded that for you. If not, you can go to the Register of Deeds and look up covenants and articles for the HOAs in the Register of Deeds. MLS history is actually I'm just going to go in to show it to you in Paragon. So let's go to share screen. We're going to go back here. Everybody should see Paragon login come up. And I'm just going to bring up listing. So I've looked up the listing information. The history on this particular property is right here where this little H is. If you click on it, you can see the sales history for that home as long as we have MLS records. So one of the things I would want to look up on here is, this one's kind of nice and straight. It came on the market, coming soon on the 16th. It went contingent on the 21st, and it's getting ready to close on the 19th. One of the things I'd be looking at here is, did it come on the market, go off the market? What's happening with that listing? Has it been on for 300 days? Because what I'm trying to figure out is, if there's any red flags there. So for example, maybe it went under contract and then a week later, it came back on the market again. That could indicate some problems with maybe the repair process or the inspections. So I'm just looking at this, and by downloading it, it just indicates that I, as an agent, did some due diligence as far as the history of the property. It's just something I want to show to my clients so they understand, what the timing is. That document section I was telling you about, where you find the residential property disclosure and anything else the listing agent has uploaded, this little D here, if you click on it, it'll bring all of that information up that is, that the listing agent has assembled. So, and here's the residential property disclosure here. And again, I would have given this to the client at the showing. And information we're looking at is for recent upgrades. So this house has a relatively new roof, has a new HVAC system. If it has an HOA, It'll all be in here. So anything, again, you're looking for red flags or things that you might need to ask some more questions about to the listing agent before you make the offer. And at least you want to make the client aware of them. I have the residential covenants are here, even though it's a non-HOA, they still have restrictive covenants. And anything else? There we go.
Yeah, sometimes those documents, that section is more populated. Sometimes it's less populated depending on what the agent decided to put in there. I've had some where it's very, very a lot of information. I love that. Sometimes it's just like nothing in there.
Yep.
So you gotta do a little more digging depending on what's in there.
Right, exactly. Yep. And it's one of the things that's my pet peeve with listing agents. I'm like, earn your money. Make it easier on, I mean, not that the buyer's agent shouldn't be doing due diligence,
Yeah.
but it makes the listing more attractive and more transparent if you do put those things up there as a listing agent. So I always make people aware when I'm teaching the listing classes about, you're marketing this property, and part of that is discovery of material facts. So this is actually one of my listings. So got as much on it as I could, but I noticed I'm like, where's the septic permit? I know I have that. So
Yeah. Yours is looking fleshed out.
yeah, well, I was, yeah. So floor plans, I even put the contingency addendum on there in case they wanted to make an offer above asking. And then I also do in my marketing, I do an updates sheet, especially if they've had a lot of recent updates, which this property did. So yeah, so anything you can put out there as a listing agent, have at it. It just makes it much easier for the buyer's agents to market your property.
Is that your main market, Clayton?
Clayton, Garner, Holly Springs, Apex, South
Nice.
Wake. Yeah, South Wake, Johnston, Harnett, and then I do a lot in Wake Forest. I have a lot of friends.
Oh, you do a
up
lot of
there.
Wake Forest too?
Yep, and I've done East, Nightdale, Zebulon, Wendell, mainly because things are a lot more affordable out there. So I'm
Definitely.
learning a lot about those markets. I don't do Durham. I don't do Chapel Hill. I don't know those areas as well. So.
Yeah, I've started kind of educating myself with some of those areas. Clayton, Zebulon, especially a lot of big bang for your buck out there. Those
Yep.
areas.
Absolutely. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Good idea. And again, one of the things you can be doing to understand the market and what's going on is you can go visit properties in certain areas. The agents maybe in our office, watch that coming soon board that on every daily update. But the other thing is getting to know some new construction folks, because it's a totally different deal. You can sometimes with some of the actually larger builders, I've been able to pick up some referrals from those folks when they've got somebody who has something to sell. So anyway, it's just a good option. And you learn a lot about the new features coming out and things like that. So it's good as a buyer's agent and a listing agent for understanding the sensitivities of pricing in those different areas. All right, so some of these other things, you're going to get a copy of the tax card and the real estate record on Wake County. Again, that's out at the Wake County real estate info that I just showed you. NC flood map is, if you just Google NC flood map, it'll bring you to the database where you can do a search, put in the address, and it'll tell you, what the possibility of flooding is. You can get the plat where I got the deed. You can get the subdivision plat if it's in there. The seller also may have uploaded a survey into those documents in the MLS. Septic permit, it's usually in that same area of the IMAP section of the Wake County real estate records. And that's only if it's applicable, of course. And then see that buyer folder structure, listing information section for anything else that you might want to load into that due diligence. So you're going to present any red flags that you found, material facts that are pertinent to the the client. And then you guys are going to talk about You've already discussed pricing, and then the next thing is going to be the due diligence fee and earnest money. Again, it's typically was 1% of the offer price for both of those together. Now I'm hearing things from some of the more experienced, longer, or people who do a lot more deals than I do, that we're looking at $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 in due diligence money. And that's what the buyer puts down and they don't get back unless the seller defaults. You're going to discuss any personal property that they want to include in the deal, any financial concessions or closing costs that they want to have added in, and then home warranty terms if they want a home warranty included. You're going to talk about the due diligence date, and that's just you make sure you have enough time to conduct the inspections and receive back any quotes from contractors, and also to receive the appraisal prior to due diligence. And then you're going to complete the offer to purchase and send it over to the buyer for signature using DocuSign. And again, Robert will go through all of that in his command crash course. And of course, all the addenda that needs to be added to those, the property disclosure, the mineral oil and gas. If it's an FHA loan or a VA loan, you have to have that addendum. Appraisal contingency, if you're going to request that or if the buyer is willing to offer that they'll pay the offer price no matter what. And then, you know, if it's after 1978 lead-based paint, any of those things. You're going to email the signed offer to the listing agent along with the disclosures, addenda, and the buyer pre-approval or proof of funds. And then you're going to negotiate that until you reach an agreement. Once you go under contract, if it's a referral, you're going to call the referral agent and let them know. You're going to audit that executed contract to make sure everything has been signed, I's dotted, T's crossed. And you're going to put that in KW Command in the under contract folder, and you're also going to load it to your Google Drive. You're going to obtain the due diligence and earnest money checks from the buyer. You're going to get a scan of those checks and deliver it to the listing agent and closing attorney. And we do not hold earnest money funds. KW does not. You have to, that needs to be made to the closing attorney. You're going to obtain all the signatures for the receipt of monies from the listing agent and the closing attorney. You're going to scan and upload all that, and you're going to, oh, that's wrong. Receipt of the earnest money check. Oh no, DD, I'm sorry. You're going to upload those all into Command and your Google Drive. Just to note, the receipt of your due diligence check and the acknowledgement from the seller and even the earnest money. Well, no, you do the earnest money. I'm thinking like a listing agent. So to get the due diligence check and acknowledgement back from the seller might take a couple days. Just go ahead and load everything in Command and submit it for approval, that folder for approval. You can always add that later. Art will say, oh, you forgot the acknowledgement for the DD and the scan of the DD check. And you can just say, I know, Art, it's coming. But he likes it if you submit those things as you get them. Then you're going to send that canned email to your client with all the executed documents, and also make a phone call if you want to just take credit for the wonderful going under contract. If you have a transaction coordinator, you should update your client during that phone call that the transaction coordinator is going to follow up with a phone call and an email to kind of pass the baton there. You're going to send an expectations email with the executed documents and then a phone call if you choose to the listing agent, the buyer's lender, and the closing attorney. You're basically here creating your team so that they understand, they have all the executed documents, that they understand that, you know, what kind of communications you're going to be doing in the future. Do you want to always have them put the name of the property and the buyer's name in the subject matter so that you can identify different things as they come in? Do you want them to respond or reply to everything they receive from you so you know they received it? Those kinds of things. You're going to put a copy of the buyer pre-approval or proof of funds, uploading it into your Google Drive and Command. You're going to call the closing attorney and come up with a closing date and time, also in conjunction with talking with the buyer and the listing agent, just to confirm all that. At this point, it's really important for you to make sure that the buyer understands that they won't get the key until the deed records. And this may take several hours or to the next day. It's one of the reasons why I don't like closing on Fridays. Because if the deed doesn't record by Friday at 4, your client can't move in until Monday when the deed records. So it's something just to tell them. So they don't have the moving truck waiting, at the closing attorney's office. They may not get that key for a couple hours. You're going to enter the listing agent, lender, and closing attorney phone number in your Google contacts, so they're easy to access. You're going to have a conversation with your buyer about the professional services disclosure and affiliated business arrangement, and you're going to send that for their signature. And that's just mainly the professional services disclosure is a document that details all of the vendors that they should be considering talking to during a typical real estate transaction. And then they're going to indicate whether they accepted or waived that service. And you're also going to note the service vendors that you recommended. It's really, I think about it for the agent, it's a cover your butt document, because if your client decides they don't want a home inspection done and you don't have that signed that they waived a home inspection, then, later on when they say, Wendy messed up, she didn't say that I needed to do a home inspection. If you don't have that signature, you could be in trouble. Yes, Jamal.
In regards to the professional services disclosure, when earlier we were talking about setting the due diligence date for them to get everything done, would this be something where you should note like how long things should take, or if they elect these services, why you should have a certain time limit for the due diligence date?
Right. So when you're like your home inspector, that's somebody that you contact ahead of time to see how long it's going to take them to get scheduled. Back several years ago, we were having backlogs of home inspectors for 2-3 weeks before they could get out and do the initial. So we were having to push out due diligence dates to 4 and 5 weeks to ensure we had the time to get the inspection back and to get quotes on anything. Right now, my guy, Home Team, which is one of Ed Robertson, one of the guys who's one of the office sponsors, he's pretty good at, usually I can get it scheduled the next week, but it's always good to keep in touch with them. But the main purpose for that professional services disclosure is reviewing with them all the different vendor contacts that they may want to make, and then having them choose to elect or waive it. So it's a great opportunity for you to educate again as to who's on your team, but also they can go find their own team member and then getting their signatures on it. That's why the sample copy of it is, during the buyer consultation, it can be something that you take out and you just talk about the process there. We need to have an attorney because they're the person that settles everything. They do a title search, those kinds of things. But then, your home inspector does this. You're not going to need a flood. If you need a flood certification because the home's in a floodplain, we'll need to get that certification done. So it's a great way to educate when you have the sample document. This is when you actually fill it out and have them sign it.
Okay, so using the sample document would be a good way to let them know hey, currently, if you are interested in doing this, it's something you would have to do once we make an offer. It'll take you about 2 or 3 weeks to get out for the initial consultation or the inspection. So maybe we should make this due diligence date a little bit longer out so that you can make sure if you want to do this, you can get it done.
Right. You could use that when you're discussing that on the when you're doing the offer to purchase. Also, it's a good time. I actually have filled in my sample professional services disclosure with all my vendors that are also, I have information in that folder, because you can then say to them, these are the folks I recommend. But and you can give them a call and check into their fees, but you can also check with the insurance agent that you've used or somebody else. So it gives you an opportunity to say, you don't have to accept who I have. They're just people that I'm used to working with. So,
Okay.
yeah, yep.
Thank you.
No, great discussion. Love it. So then once you've gotten, and the affiliated business arrangement is just a disclosure to them of some of the business arrangements that our partners have with certain entities. The two that we have right now are Movement Mortgage. We have a marketing arrangement with them, and Heritage Title. We have a marketing, one of our two partners, Scott Taylor and Joe Williams, are actually partners in Heritage Title. So that's just making our clients aware that there's a relationship there, but I don't, as an agent, I don't get any money from it. But you also want to make note of the importance of some of the inspections, and also getting a survey, because, especially if they've got additional things on that land, like a fence or a workshop or a detached garage that have been added since the home was constructed, they need to have a survey to ensure that nothing that they have is encroaching on other folks. There's no easements that are going to, impact their enjoyment of the property, or that the neighbors have fences that are encroaching on their property. So that all gets worked out during the title when the attorney's searching through title. If we don't have a survey that reveals that, it's not something that can be taken care of before closing. And you're going to upload all those things to Google Drive and KW Command, and you're going to email those documents to the buyer. You're going to upload all the supporting documents, the deed, the real estate information, all that into your Google Drive. And then the deed, the MLS active and pending need to go in the under contract folder in Command. If you're going to be ordering a home warranty that the buyer has selected to order for themselves, then you place that order and submit the invoice to the closing attorney so that they can, and instructions about who's paying for it at closing. Typically, you negotiate it so the seller pays it at closing. And then in Command, you're going to change the name of the opportunity to the buyer's last name and the property address now, because that'll help them identify the specific opportunity, the leadership team. You're going to enter the buyer's offer in the offers tab in Command, and you're going to accept that offer. And then you're going to complete the commissions tab, which basically outlines how the commission is, how much commission you're going to make, anything that you want to deduct from it, like if you're going to make a contribution to KW Cares or something else, if you're doing a buyer credit, all that can be put in there. And you submit all the documents to the Market Center for compliance. You also complete this commissions tab and submit it. So in due diligence, basically this is setting up the inspections with the buyer and the listing agent. You're going to put that in the calendar. You're going to confirm the inspector is going to schedule those inspections in showing time. Most of the time, that's how it's done. Sometimes you have an inspector who's not a member of the MLS that you may need to schedule those inspections for them. You're going to remind the buyer the day before inspections, and you're going to accompany your buyer to all inspections. It is against MLS rules for your home inspector to be present on the property with a buyer when you're not present. So if you can't be there, you need to get a licensed agent from our firm to cover for you. You need to request the utility information from the listing agent and then send it and the moving checklist to the buyer. And again, remind the buyer to arrange for their homeowner's insurance and send that invoice or binder to the lender. And then also remind them to set up utilities to begin the day of closing. And again, this can be a canned email. You're going to receive those inspection reports and upload them to your Google Drive. You don't need to upload those to KW Command. I don't know why I put that in there. You send to the buyer for review, and you discuss any follow-up contractor assessments or estimates. And you schedule those in conjunction with the buyer and the listing agent and schedule them in showing time. You're going to meet the contractor and the buyer for all of the inspections and assessments. You're going to get back those estimates and discuss them with the buyer. And then you're going to prepare the due diligence and repair request or the agreement to amend contract if the buyer is requesting a financial concession or price reduction in lieu of repairs. That's just an additional amendment. You send that to the buyer for any final review and their signatures, and then you're going to email that to the listing agent with the supporting inspection reports and repair estimates, as long as the buyer is approved the release of that information. You receive the response from the seller and you present it to the buyer and you negotiate until the agreement is reached. One note here in bold: if you don't have an answer back from the listing agent by noon on the due diligence date, then you're going to have the buyer go ahead and sign a termination of contract by mutual agreement and release of earnest money and send it to the listing agent prior to 3 p.m. on that due diligence date. The reason you want to get that in process is because at 5 o'clock, what happens to the earnest money on 5 o'clock of due diligence?
Rip.
What, David?
It becomes the sellers.
It's
It
failed.
becomes the sellers.
Yeah, I said
exactly.
rip.
It's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. Unless the seller decides to, do something stupid and breach. But yes, that's when your earnest, not only your due diligence money, but your earnest money is now at risk. So you want to go ahead and do that.
Are you wanting to show your Word document?
Yes, is it not there?
It's showing the MLS page.
Oh my goodness.
I'm still following the Word document. I just didn't know.
Yeah, no, I've been wanting, thank you, Josh, because I don't know what I'm seeing.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
I was like, oh shoot.
I'm going to be here. We're going to be done really quick. I'm sorry we've run
Yeah,
over a
that's
little
okay.
bit. Okay, so then you receive that fully executed due diligence and repair agreement or the agreement to amend contract that includes the financial concession or price reduction. And you're going to upload into your Google Drive and to Command. You're going to email that to the buyer and the attorney. You never share repair details or the inspection reports with the lender, okay? Just don't want to get them involved. The only thing that you send to them if you've negotiated financial concessions, because they need to know that for the underwriting. So you just send them that agreement to amend contract that has the financial concessions on it. They don't need to know why that's happening, and everybody's happy. So, because the lender, if they see certain repairs that need to be made, they're going to some of them are going to want to see them be made before closing. And so you just don't want to see that that's being left to the buyer if you can avoid that. Unless it's under this next bullet. So you're going to confirm that the appraisal was completed with no issues with the lender and the buyer. If there are issues, you need to negotiate those prior to noon on the due diligence date again. And again, follow that process for termination of the transaction if you can't come to an agreement. Just a note, FHA or VA appraisers may submit repair conditions with the appraisal. These repairs must be completed prior to closing and cannot be negotiated as a financial concession or price reduction. So you can have an appraiser, and I've had them do this, that if there's peeling paint on the house, they're going to say it needs to be painted before closing. And sometimes sellers don't want to make those changes. So it's just something that, and it's another reason why sellers will value a conventional loan over an FHA or VA loan when they're looking at different offers. So keep that in mind, that that's why we want the appraisal to come in prior to due diligence, because especially with FHA and VA, because we want to be able to get those repairs on the repair request and get the seller to agree to do them before closing. If your contract includes additional earnest money deposit, you need to watch for that on your calendar. And on that date, you need to make sure that you get the check from the buyer, scan the check, and deliver it to the closing attorney so that you meet that deadline. Some people don't, because of cash flow purposes, don't want to do earnest money until after the due diligence date or on the due diligence date to make sure they get through repairs, because it can be sometimes, maybe a week before if you terminate, for the attorney to get you that money back so that you can move on to the next home that you want to make an offer on. So they'll set it up where they do no earnest money at the time of contract, and they do additional earnest money after due diligence. You're going to make sure that you get the repair receipts and invoices from the listing agent to document that the repairs have been completed and paid for. And you're going to upload those into Google Drive only. You don't need to put them in Command. And also, certain invoices should not be shown on the closing disclosure. You're just going to need to direct the attorney as needed. Again, this has to do with what the lender sees on the CD. So finally, compliance. You're going to do a review to make sure all the documents have been uploaded into Command and submitted. You're going to check the closed file in KW Command for the, I don't know why this wasn't changed, but it should say for, just for the disbursement authorization. And you're going to verify on that DA for the commission splits and the referral check. Then you're going to verify compliance approval and follow any directions or comments to correct anything you need to correct. At closing, you're going to confirm the final walkthrough time with the buyer and then the listing agent. Make arrangements for the lockbox removal, and usually that's just bringing this should be pick up the key. And usually what it is you pick it up at the walkthrough and bring it to the attorney. Sometimes the listing agent will want you to bring it into the lockbox into the closing so that they can pick it up there. But with most sellers not attending closing these days, they usually just have you leave it at the house and then they go pick it up with their sign. You're going to coordinate the final walkthrough date and time with the buyer and the listing agent, and schedule it in showing time and enter it on your calendar and invite the buyer. Okay, I'm gonna have to fix this. All right, so I'm just duplicating bullets there. So after that, then you're going to receive the preliminary CD, closing disclosure, from the closing attorney, and it usually comes within 24 to 48 hours before closing, although I have received it the morning of closing. You review that with the buyer and inform the closing attorney of any changes. You're going to send a canned closing reminder email to the buyer. Oh, I fixed all this, which includes the date and time and location of the closing, to bring their ID, make arrangements for payment of funds due at closing with the closing attorney, maybe a wire or a cashier's check, and then all these other things that you're going to remind them of. And again, remind them they won't get the keys until the deed records. You're going to prepare your closing gift and a note card. You're going to attend the closing and deliver it to them. You're going to confirm that the deed was recorded with the attorney and inform buyers and ensured the keys are delivered to them. You're going to pick up your check and the CD and HUD at the closing, or HUD at the closing attorney's office. You're going to scan those to PDF files and upload them to Google Drive and KW Command. You're going to verify the MLS status is closed, and you're going to print and upload a copy of the 2-page agent version to Google Drive and Command. And then you're going to submit that closed folder to the Market Center in Command for approval, because you're not getting paid until it's done. You're going to submit the commission check to the Market Center administrator, and the envelope is provided on a drop-in box to the right of the door of Jeremy's door, and he has a checklist on that envelope that you need to complete. You put the envelope in the red box that's right by his door, and he's going to direct deposit your commission, and he'll send you an email advising you of that deposit. And for the referral, the MCA will distribute the referral check, and you just need to let the referral agent know. And then finally, follow up. And this is really just to ensure, closing the loop with the clients and making sure you get them, get feedback from them and a testimonial, and start marketing using some of the materials that you, pictures and those kinds of things, to promote yourself, as well as to establish an ongoing relationship with that client. So you're going to change their address in KW Command. You're going to gather a testimonial or ask for a review, and do a canned email with instructions to leave that review. Make sure you check that every once in a while, because Facebook is notorious for changing where they have you put a review in. You don't want to confuse your clients. And then you're going to take a picture from the closing and upload it to social media and promote it. And then you're going to do a 1-week check-in phone call or pop by with your client, just to, let them know that you still love them, even though you aren't seeing them on a regular basis. And then you're going to put them on a maintenance smart plan to establish presence and encourage referrals over time. Because some of your clients are going to be your best raving fans. So that's it. Not too bad. Only 15 minutes over. Do you guys have any questions or discussions or anything that comes to mind?
Thought you did a nice job. There's a lot to chew on, but I'm sure I'll have questions as I think about it more,
Yeah, absolutely. I put my email address and my phone number in the first part of the chat, so it should be there if you need it. I'm going to be updating that information as well, and probably talking to Michaela about doing the listing process portion of this. But again, I think the directions are enough that you could kind of try it out on your own too. So maybe next time we do this, we'll send it out ahead of time, so we can make it more of a workshop rather than, ideally what we want to do when we're face to face is we actually, have those folders out, and you can make your own example of the listing folder and the buyer folder. So, that's the workshop part of it all. But unfortunately today we got a lot of just me talking, which I don't like. I do like to do, but I like to get you guys to talk a little bit more too. So, well, cool. Well, don't be shy about reaching out. If you see me in the office, maybe we can grab a cup of coffee or something like that. And if you want to get together anytime in the office, just to chat and talk about strategy or anything about the business, the market, your kids, dogs, I'll be talking about my chickens. That's my new thing. So I look forward to it. You guys are going to do great, and be happy to help you.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Take care, guys.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. Good
Bye.
job.
Thank you.